How Bizarre is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off.
I'm doing this through my laptop.
We should probably make the announcement about what happened to John Mark first and foremost, because.
Well, that's where we have to start. Yeah, is he here though? Yeah. Haven't heard him yet. John Mark, does the mystery remain?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, last we spoke, you didn't.
That's correct.
You want to inform everybody what happened? It was one of the theories that we came across.
I got lost in one of those back rooms.
Oh, God.
That's the best possible scenario.
It was the one with the black leather couch in it, huh?
It swallowed me up. And I kept opening doors and going down hallways, and they just kept opening doors to more hallways and more doors and more hallways. And it was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, that does sound more interesting than what actually happened, which was you fell fucking asleep. Now, I didn't find out until the next day because we didn't hear from you at all. And so we were like, oh, God, it still seemed like you were connected, but then like when he was sleeping, wouldn't we hear him snoring or something? So then
I would have thought so.
I texted your girlfriend, and she read my message late that night, but she didn't get back to me until the next day, saying that you had fallen asleep. And I was like, oh, okay, well, at least we now know that John Mark didn't stroke out at the stroke of 10, and all is well. Now, I wouldn't, and as I said, that was the most logical conclusion, even though it was a weird conclusion, because you've never fallen asleep as far as I know, you've never fallen asleep on the podcast before. But there was a missing, there was a missing piece of information, and that was, I didn't know, I don't think any of us knew that you podcast from bed.
Yeah.
Had we known that, I think that it would have been a pretty clean and it would have been a Scooby-Doo wrap-up ending in about 3 minutes. Right. But we didn't know. I didn't fucking know you. Why would I have a reason? It does explain a lot of the movement noise. I don't know if you and Jen are getting it on sometimes when you're on the podcast, or we just rolled over to get more comf, and sometimes accidentally lay on your
it's because headphones. So my setup is like the most high-tech fucking setup you'll ever see. It's an iPhone with
Suck it, Lyle.
It's an iPhone with wired, not cordless, but wired ear pods that barely fit in my ears because they have giant ear holes. And so that you know how they have the little thing on one side of the cord that dangles down, which is like the microphone thing.
Sure.
And so that dangles down, and it like
that's what
you move around. It rubs it rubs on your shirt or on your stubble if you haven't shaved recently or whatever. So that's all that noise that you hear. If I'm like,
the funny thing is, ironically, you're the best sounding one out of all of us. When
sometimes
it comes to
we all take turns.
You sound the best out of everybody else.
So right now
we've the code, man.
We've got a hilarious scenario because John Mark's got his normal setup. Christopher is temporarily in the garage. He'll be sounding better in a bit. Lyle's got a whole bunch of toys right now, and you sound definitely interesting. I think it's a bit crisp. I think you guys are all sounding a little crisp. Maybe I can ramp some of that down because you all coming on the same track. But
fix it in post.
Fix it. I do.
I'm as flat as I could be. I'm running a lot of shit, dude. I got a compressor and
limiter. I know, but we don't. So it's about matching levels, because once I compress it all, it's gonna squash the lows and the highs. But I think it'll work. Right. I mean, we'll find out. I won't know until we find out. But it sounds fucking hilarious right now because it sounds like there are 4 different. Well, I guess it sounds like what it is: 4 different people from 4 different zip codes. But anywho, we are back together, and that is all that matters. We took a big chunk off. Didn't really mean to, but we never really mean to. But we do got to talk. There's been a lot. I think a lot of you, no matter where you're at, definitely in the United States. I got a feeling that some of you outside the United States have probably heard the name Wenatchee quite a bit in the news of late.
Oh, yeah.
We have had a pretty fucking brutal murder happen here. Didn't technically happen in Wenatchee, but they're all Wenatchee people. It was right outside of Wenatchee, up in the hills, just outside of Leavenworth. And if you haven't heard, there is a dude who is currently on the run after viciously killing his 3 young daughters. Now he's been homeless and I think unemployed and dealing with all sorts of mental issues, but the current situation with him and his ex-wife is a court-ordered or court-honored situation concerning custody, and so he's been seeing the kids. He's been having them, I guess, every other weekend or something like that. Fairly typical setup, except for the fact that he's been homeless and unemployed and not in a good state of mind. Now, he's a he's a vet. I can't remember where he saw action, but he came back pretty fucked up, as a lot of people do, PTSD, and there's a lot coming out about that. And it's just this really fucking tragic and sad and horrifying event. And he went to pick up his girls as per usual and drove them up into the woods. And they now know they've done the autopsies and everything, and they have the timeline. He killed them that night. Now, they had been missing for a week or two. It's been quite a while. And it was getting to be a pretty big story around central Washington, certainly the Northwest. You were seeing some of the "Where are these girls?" posters, and look up, be on the outlook for this guy as well, because something isn't right here. And although I was going to say that I thought that was happening outside of Wenatchee and even Washington, but when I texted you guys, I was listening to the scanner the night that they found the bodies of the young girls up in the woods. And they were being fairly coded with what they were saying because everyone's been paying attention to this case. And after like a week or so of missing, it's pretty scary. And no one was hearing from this guy. And so I listened to the scanner. I have the actual scanner radios and I listen to the apps. Most people listen to the apps these days, and you can see how many people are listening to the app. On any given day, it's usually between like 30, 50, maybe if there's a big wildfire going on around here, a couple hundred people. But on this night, there was a couple thousand people listening to the local scanner. And like, what did I miss? Because I had just gotten home and I got on Facebook and saw that a bunch of cops had gone flying up toward Leavenworth. And I was like, oh shit, that sounds like a lot of cops and different agencies even be involved. And about the time I turned on the scanner, I heard, like I said, some coded, but there was one officer that was like, and they need to bring that up here for and he paused and he was like, 3 victims. And that's all he said. I'm like, fuck.
Oh, man.
Now, other people had gotten on Facebook at that point because, there are tons of threads. This is a big community thing,
Yeah.
When it happens in a small town like this, everyone's like crazy involved. Everyone's out looking and, hoping that it's going to end well. But it was pretty clear that it hadn't ended well. But the official word didn't come out until the next day, even though I already knew and a lot of other people who were listening already knew. Their dad's truck was abandoned in the campground. There's a little bit of blood on the tailgate that they now know is male blood. They haven't tied it to anybody yet. There's all sorts of theories about if that could be his blood.
I just saw something today that they said that they thought that they found some animal blood too.
Yeah, there's some animal blood there. And he did have a dog. The dog was chained or tied to a tree. He left the dog as well. He abandoned the truck and the dog, and he took off. And a massive manhunt was underway. And, everyone's got all these theories, he probably offed himself. Or the one thing that was unique about this case is being a veteran. He was specifically trained in high mountain warfare from everything that I've heard reported by the local media. Outside of his military training and experience, he was an enthusiast. He was a survivalist as just a thing to do, like a hobbyist survivalist. Had certain gear, knew how to live off the land, knew how to find your direction, all that stuff. I mean, he knew what he was doing. Way more than the average schmo out in the woods in some sort of manic or whatever fucking phase he was in. Who knows if that was a passing phase? The whole thing seems pretty fucking planned and pretty premeditated. He also left his phone, and they got into his phone and found all sorts of things, like he was researching how to get to Canada from that area, how to enter Canada, and how to find a job in Canada without certain credentials. And so this massive manhunt has been on. And I've got everything going right now because it's really picked up. I've got the scanner on. I've got the flight radar things because they have really focused this. They were basically just looking everywhere. They had hounds out there. They got the FBI is now involved. They're running most of this show at the moment, and they have had a couple of tips. I've heard from a couple of places that he may have been captured on somebody's game cam, hunting camera out in the out in the woods somewhere there. I have not heard any official outlet say that, but I've heard a lot of people speculate on that. One way or the other, something happens. They received either a tip, either there was a sighting, or he was captured on that camera, or they just logically figured out where he would probably be. But they are focusing all of their attention right now on this very small area that is just off I-97. Now, if he was headed toward Leavenworth itself, is kind of northeast of Wenatchee, northwest a little bit. If he was heading toward Canada, you just keep on trucking north, obviously. But if he is down by 97, which is Blewett Pass, that's how we go to Seattle. It's one of the routes we take to get from Wenatchee to Seattle. And looking at the map where he is, he would have had to have backtracked to come back toward Wenatchee. So now a lot of people are freaking out, thinking the most logical thing, I mean, who knows when mental illness could be involved, but it seems like this was done given the last few conversations. His name's Travis Decker. The last few conversations he had with his ex-wife and the mother of the children, Whitney Decker, this was a pretty aggro and hostile situation. And all the while she was, trying to get this guy help. He was trying to get help at one point, but couldn't really get that help, which is a whole different conversation. But now people are, of course, terrified that he's coming back to try to get her. All of this is speculation, but what is not being speculated right now is where the 24-hour search right now is. The helicopters are flying over my house. I live up by the airport. So every time one flies over, I get on the little radar app and you can follow it and you can see where it came from. And it just circling this tiny little area right off of I-97, about an hour or so away from Wenatchee. So I'm curious if it has gone international or if it's just mostly an American thing. But it's been wild to see something like this take off in the age of social media, because I'm a true crime fan. I listen to a ton of podcasts, watch a ton of documentaries. I am familiar with every aspect of the telling of it, but it is different when it's like, I don't know these people. I don't know them at all. I'm surrounded by people who are like really close with him, and they're just like inconsolable right now, as you can imagine. I mean, losing one of those girls would be horrible enough, but all three.
Jesus, man.
Yeah. And so I got a feeling the mom is probably being protected, and I can't imagine she's just chilling at home right now, because that would not be something the authorities would be advising her. I'm sure she's well looked after and being guarded, But it is still terrifying to know that he's fucking still out there. And this was, what, I think at this point it's been a week or so, 10 days. I've lost track how long he's been on the run. I think we're approaching 10 days, isn't it?
Something like that,
crazy?
10, 11.
Quite
Yeah.
that long ago. One of the interesting aspects, kind of infuriating, actually, is seeing all of these true crime podcasters doing little videos of it and using footage that has nothing to do with not only this case, but nothing to do with Wenatchee. Like they're just using footage to pad their little documentary or their little story, their newsreels. Like there's plenty of footage out there of our own sheriff doing a press conference, and any updates from there. Everything else should just be the photos of the people involved. But it's really been tacky in a lot of ways. And speaking of tacky, and speaking of our sheriff, we do have a very handsome, young, chiseled sheriff. There's no denying it. But it is really tacky how many fucking people are fawning over this guy in the comment threads of these stories. It was like, ooh, Sheriff McDreamy over here. It's like, can we maybe at least wait until these poor girls are buried in the fucking ground before we act this tacky? I don't know. It's weird. And I was talking to Sarah about this the other day, and we were both just like, because it is one of those things where it's like, we consume true crime, and it is really easy to forget. You know, there's such a distance between, obviously, you know that these are people that lost their life and the horrible things happen to people, but it is a whole different ball game when it's this close to home, and you can see all the bullshit that goes along with it, because you don't necessarily spot the bullshit when you don't know what you're being served is, you know what I mean? It's like, I know that that's not a Chelan County cop, and I know that that footage has nothing to do with this crime. And there are people showing like, body bags being wheeled out. It's like, it's not even in the fucking forest. It's just like out like downtown New York or something. And it's just like,
Jesus,
what
man.
the fuck is, and that's the more obvious stuff, but there's all sorts of subtleties. And it's like this weird game of telephone where it just, people keep adding the juicy details, and it gets worse and worse, and not necessarily in an accurate way. But it's been fucking wild. So how long was it before I texted you guys that I think they were killed before you started seeing it in the news? Do you remember?
No, it was all pretty fast. Felt like.
Yeah. Are you seeing it a lot in your neck of the woods?
Oh, everywhere. Like I've seen it. I mean, the Daily Mail, which is like a website I've guiltily enjoyed for a long time. It's getting progressively more difficult to go there.
Yeah.
Even they picked it up. I mean,
yeah,
it was nuts.
Yeah. Well, that would mean it's international then, isn't the Daily Mail UK?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, and especially right now, because there, I got everything fired up, because it is possible that while we're recording, that something might get wrapped, like he may be found dead or alive.
I apologize to anyone who didn't want to hear this, but one of the details I got from you, Ron, that I wasn't seeing anywhere was that he suffocated them. And he strangled them. Or somehow. How did you get that information?
That was in the news, but some news sources decided to not cover that. That was kind of controversial here, because the local newspaper mentioned that, and they got a lot of shit for it. And I think maybe it was just too soon, because now, those details are everywhere. Trigger warning. I'm just saying it now because it's everywhere. But all three of them were found with plastic bags tied over their heads.
Jesus.
That was something that obviously not a lot of people wanted to hear. And especially like the day, that mom, I'm sure, found out the night that I heard it on the scanner, which meant that by the next day when the announcement had been made, who knows, not just the mom, but extended family and friends, that, these are things that can be dealt with incrementally if possible. And like I said, that detail was always going to come out, but it didn't necessarily have to be on the front page of the local paper covering it, and it wasn't just the paper; it was a few other local entities, and they both retracted. We can't really retract it, but they modified the headlines, and they did, I suppose, redact it. That's the proper word. But now, like I said, it's out everywhere. Pretty much as bad as it gets, and just fucked up on so many levels. And a lot of this reminded me of the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie thing, because it was a similar thing where it's like they knew the crime at that point. It started with the missing person case. Then they knew the crime. Then it became a manhunt. And there was all these sightings, and mostly bullshit sightings from all over the fucking country. And it was really interesting to see the other side of that too. But some of those sightings ended up being accurate, not like, oh, I saw this dude walking downtown in, Kansas or whatever. But the people that drove by and saw their van on the side of the road, which ended up being like right after Brian Laundrie killed her and was climbing back into the van. So similar things like that, where it's like I think this has captured a lot of people's imagination, and they're following it. I think that's another reason why the scanner is getting so many feeds, because people from all over the country are listening, trying to do internet gumshoe work, if you will.
Did you end up going to the memorial?
No, I didn't. I don't, like I said, I don't know anybody from the family. I didn't know them. There are plenty of people that did go to the memorial, but no, I didn't feel compelled to be there. I did contribute to the fucking GoFundMe, which is rapidly approaching $1.5 million. I've never seen a thing like this.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. What a fucking weird thought, though. I don't know how much GoFundMe takes that and where it'll ultimately end, but I suppose to some degree she'll be a millionaire after this. But what a hollow.
Yeah.
Fucking. There's something about that that's just. I mean, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love that this has touched so many people, and like I said, this is about as bad as it can get. And there's so many, parents that are just trying to imagine what that woman must be going through. And, one good thing is that as she continues to heal and process best she can, move on with her life, she'll have options to do that with this money. Huge chunk of fucking money. But
God,
anyway,
so crazy.
Yeah. That's
it sucks that this is going to be something Wenatchee's going to be known for.
We're only known for bad things. Yeah. It's been that way forever.
I said it's like every 10 years or every 8 years, something fucking just horrible happens here, and it always has, and just the just the grossest, nastiest shit you could imagine.
It doesn't happen often, but when it does tend to be pretty brutal. The Jack Spillman murders are still some of the worst murders you could read about, if you want to read about, because it on paper it's a guy who killed a few people. The one here in Wenatchee was I did know them, a mom and her 14-year-old daughter, but it was how they were killed and then what was done to their bodies afterward that really made that like a fucking Manson family level crime. And that doesn't always come out in the stories, so it's not as famous as some of these other cases, but it's one of the more brutal things you could read about. They did an episode of Evil Lives Here it's called I was going to say Werewolf of Wenatchee, but I don't think it was. They call them the werewolf something. I don't know. Jack Spillman, if you want to look that case up. But anyway, don't need to linger on that much longer, but all that, I guess, to be a long setup for if something seems to be popping up on any of these alerts, or I'm going to interrupt, and who knows, hopefully they can find this motherfucker. I think we all want him to be, well, maybe not all of us, but I think most of us want him to be found alive so he can have to face what he's done. But
I'm real surprised he didn't kill himself right away.
Well, he might
honestly.
Yeah, me too.
He might have. We don't know what they know. Say it again.
We'll see. I said I kind of think he probably already has.
He might have.
And So I don't know. I couldn't imagine trying to, live on past what he did,
There's just so much you don't know
It's-
what that state
well,
of mind was.
Did he kill his dog?
No, didn't kill his dog.
Huh.
No, the dog was tied to the tree, I think, and he's already been taken to the Humane Society. Fucking strange, horrible story. And the woods are crawling with people looking for this motherfucker. So
Yeah. Well, there's a
And
reward.
influencer.
I think what is a $20,000 reward for him?
yeah, which seems pretty fucking
Little
insignificant, but I don't think that a reward, that's great and all, but I think there are plenty of people that want this, that understand the gravity of this fucking crime, that this is not just a typical wanted situation. But it does seem odd that it's $20,000. I don't know where that money even comes from or how they figured that shit out, but anyway.
Well, it's amazing with how much technology we have that he hasn't been found, because there's tons of people with drones out there. The forest department has them too. And you get a good hour flight, you could cover about, a good 10 miles, especially depending on how high you are up in the mountains, how much signal you get. You could cover the whole enchantments in less than a day, depending on what, God knows what he's doing. He's,
well, that also goes to how well trained actually is he? Like, is he doing some fucking predator shit by covering himself with mud and stuff? Maybe. There did seem to be a sighting of him at one point, and they described him as like he was out on one of the trails, but he just kind of cut across. They described him as looking unprepared. So who knows? He may just be out of his fucking mind wandering around there. But yeah, even with technology, anyone that's gone over those woods in a plane, that is a daunting task to find somebody that size amidst all those fucking trees, even with thermal and other kinds of technology. And you got to, also deal with false readings from animals and other sources. And there are people out there, we're not talking like the absolute middle of nowhere. There are people and hiking trails and cabins all over this place. So it's also one of those things where he could have broken into some cabin and been hiding out there the whole time without having to go very far from where the killings were done.
It's crazy how different the guy looks in different photos too.
Yeah, everyone says that he's really a chameleon. If he is caught, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like. If he never left the woods, he probably looks like he did the day he took the girls. There's a Ring camera footage of him picking up the girls, like right before he took them to go do this. Probably looks like that, but maybe more disheveled. On a much less horrible Wenatchee famous story, I don't know if you guys caught this, but have you seen that story going around about the theater that collapsed while people were watching Final Destination?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen. That was the Wenatchee collapse when people were watching Captain America and nobody got hurt.
I thought the photo looked familiar.
Yeah, but you'll notice that they cropped the photo in the retelling. Well, some of them did. Some of them were too stupid to recrop them, because you can clearly see in the original photo where there's two firefighters looking up at the ceiling. For those of you that didn't hear the last few episodes, I know we talked about this on the show. One of our local theaters here. It was right before we did the Rainier Beard documentary. Different screening, or different screen room, but old theater, and part of the ceiling collapsed. It was also a very famous story. They made fun of it on SNL. And that's the thing, like, this was only a couple of months ago. Like, how are people falling for this again? But they cropped the photo to get Captain America out in some of them. And then because Final Destination, I think it was one of the Final Destination producers or marketing people that came up with it. And if so, it was brilliant, because I swear to God, this thing has got way more shares than the initial real story. Now, the initial story was two young women, I think, were watching Captain America, the only people in the theater. They're only a couple of rows away from this HVAC unit coming in that would have crushed them to death, probably. So it was scary, and it was a dangerous and wild story, but nobody got hurt. This story, it is a game of telephone, because every time you see it, there's more deaths. like the injuries. 100 people, I think, are the most victims that I've seen. Like during.
Oh, they're actually saying that. Okay, so they're actually saying that some shit went down like that, and not just like making like a meme out of it.
Oh no, this is not a meme. This is being presented as a 100%. It's written up just like the other stories.
Oh, good God.
And then so many of these influencers that I follow to get kooky little stories from, we're picking it up, and I'm like, oh my God. And you can see in the comments, 1 out of 100 comments would be like, this is not true. This, and linking to the original story. Everybody else is like, oh my God, this is so perfect. I can't believe this actually happened. I wrote about it in the comment, and before we printed, I counted, I think, 13 or 14 separate outlets that rewrote the story. It wasn't a share. They rewrote their own version of the story, and each one of those got shared 100 times. This was way bigger than the initial story. Now, I'll concede that a collapse during watching a Final Destination is a better story. And with people getting hurt and or killed, of course, it's going to be a bigger story. But there are people, I promise you, there are people alive that saw that story that will go to their grave thinking that actually happened. And this whole thing was such a fascinating display of how bullshit travels, especially in the age where
everyone's brain rotted.
And Facebook got rid of their, they used to put flags on the bottom of the, like right in before the comment, section, but at the bottom of the story where it says, this appears to be bullshit. They got rid of that. And now these kinds of bullshit stories are just, and this is like a fluff thing. You can only imagine. I know you've seen all the serious things that are obvious phony stories that people, they'll go to their graves thinking that Elon Musk bought The View and fired all those liberal bitches and hired
cuff your mom.
I think it was Kid Rock. Who was it? Joe Rogan. Like he hired all these right or alt-right dudes to do the new View. You shouldn't even have to fact check that one, but clearly nobody was. And there are people who's like, okay, well, tune in tomorrow and see if the View is a bunch of see if Kid Rock is now hosting the fucking View because Elon Musk bought it. Just tune in. Nah, it's already done. It's gospel. It's happened, and it made them happy, and they have told 1,000 people who told 1,000 people on social media or otherwise that Elon Musk bought The View and fired all those liberal bitches was the actual fucking headline. You gotta love it, and by love it I mean despise it. Anyway, I have hogged the mic. That gets us caught up on the craziness in Wenatchee, and we had to touch on it because I know that people have seen one, if not both, of these stories. For I gotta imagine the murders, especially, are probably making news outside of the United States, and I'm sure a lot of you recognize the name Wenatchee. Anywho, where should we go from here? You want to move on, or?
I have been saving these incredible stories for Weird Triv. I'm really excited about Weird Triv tonight and for next week because we have a next week show too. But my girlfriend is selling her house right now, and she's staying with me while she looks for a new place. And
I was wondering if that meant she was moving in.
Yeah. So I've got her kids and her Saint Bernard and her cat here. And so it's been an adjustment, but
sure.
Things are going good. So,
sure.
What'd you say?
I said, sure. That is a big adjustment.
Yeah. But, one of the things, so the selling of her house has been abysmal. I don't know if I told you guys this, but like, I'm not going to say it. I can't wait to tell the whole story. The house closes this week and I'll be able to share more, but she had a real estate agent previously that was wild, and some of the things that this real estate agent did weren't quote unquote legal. So she's had some problems selling the house, which I'll get into next week perhaps. But
okay.
But I will say she had to get there's the appraisal, but there's also the inspections, and and even any of you that have bought or sold a house or worked in construction, so pretty much all of us.
Yeah.
The inspection's a big deal because they go through and they make sure, you know, the house isn't in disrepair or, you know, going to be condemned. You know, no bank wants to loan money to someone that's going to buy a house they have to abandon because something's wrong with it, right?
Right. Or is built improperly and
totally. So inspection's
yeah.
an important thing. A professional thing needs to be done. Ember was able to pull up her ring cam when the inspector was taking around the buyer and the buyer's real estate agent. Mm-hmm. And the things that came out of this dude's mouth were fucking wild. One of them was so wild, I turned it into a question tonight with a weird triv. I can hardly wait to share this with you. It was fucking crazy. But yeah.
We don't get a hint as to
no, I can't,
what flavor of wild.
Oh no, I can't possibly.
There's a ton of flavors there. That's like a Baskin Robbins question.
Couldn't possibly.
Do you have anything else? I mean, we could jump right into Strange Trip. We've been doing. We are on a bit of a time crunch tonight.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah. Well, fuck it. You guys want to do this or what?
Let's do it.
It's Weird Trivia with Christopher F. Hahn, a man from Florida who thinks square shit in nature. Don't get me started on the goddamn brown hair. It's Weird Trivia that might get Christopher fired.
Let's fucking go. Okay, question 1. This popular movie actually started its life as a script for an X-Files episode. It was axed and years later retooled into its movie form. What movie almost was just an episode of the X-Files? Does that make sense? The way I worded that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Is it A, 7?
Oh, that would be, that fits.
I'd see that.
B, Final Destination.
Oh, interesting.
C, Powder.
When
I loved Powder.
When I take my hat off and it's like the dead of winter, I always look at myself and I'm like, if I shaved my sideburns, I'd be the kid from Powder.
And maybe your eyebrows too, just for good measure.
Without the powers.
Or was it D, Jeepers Creepers?
Oh, I love that movie.
Again, this popular movie actually started its life as a script of an X-Files episode. They pulled it and ended up retooling it. The writer did into a script for this movie. Was it 7, Final Destination, Powder, or Jeepers Creepers? Ronster.
And that's hard. I feel like 7 fits the best, but God, 7 has been popular and analyzed and talked about so much for so long that I feel like I would have heard that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I think I'm going to go Final Destination only because that's been everywhere lately, and I don't know, my theory is maybe that popped up.
Yeah.
But I would 100% believe 7. The other two, oh God. Wasn't there kind of a thing like Powder starring Jack Black and
oh yeah, the episode the
like he has the power of lightning,
electricity.
Yeah.
You get struck by lightning. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I'll go with that.
Okay, John Mark.
Yeah, all of these are plausible to me, except for some reason Final Destination, which Ron picked. I don't know why.
You can pick
for some reason that one I'm just like, I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so maybe I'm not remembering
it's
anything
bullshit
about it correctly. But I'm gonna go with Jeepers Creepers.
Jeepers Creepers.
Where'd you get those creepers? Okay. Wow. Who loves you, baby?
What's in the box?
Oh
man, what a movie! Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem. It's a movie. You know what I mean? It's not not an hour episode. It'd be so hard.
You imagine Mulder out there. What's in the box?
Well, no, to do 7 murders in like an hour. You know, that's a movie.
Yeah.
You know, to follow
so
the
many
pacing
memorable things about that movie.
Yeah,
But it is funny how we
I would think it would be like a great movie, like the X-Files did the movie, and that movie was great.
Is it David Fincher, the director of that?
Yeah, Seven. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with, God damn. What was the third one that hasn't been done?
Powder.
I'm gonna go with Powder because it's small. It's a short enough story you could tell it within an hour,
Sure.
and it kind of fits. Like mutation, alien type could have been. Maybe.
Okay. Question 2. Now, to be fair, I took this from a Facebook article, and I only mildly researched it, so I think it's pretty accurate. But just a forewarning there, little disclaimer that don't come at me, y'all.
Too late. I'm already putting my shoes on.
Cool. Take one off, throw it at me. Jessica Simpson. She dated a slew of celebrities before she found the one and her current husband, Eric Johnson, whom she's been married to for 15 years now. I was surprised to learn, however, about some of the people she has dated. If only briefly. I'm going to read you 4 names. 3 of them she dated. Try to find the one I slipped in there.
Okay.
Who has Jessica Simpson dated? We're going to start with A. Billy Corgan.
Huh. He has had a fascinating menagerie.
Is
that the right
prolific
word?
in his dating? I don't know.
Prolific. Well, supposedly cheated on Courtney. Supposedly cheated on Kurt with him.
Speaking of side fucking thing,
That makes more sense than Jessica.
I've been reading the Anthony Kiedis documentary or autobiography called Scar Tissue. Wow, that guy has lived a fucking life.
Oh yeah.
I am going to bring some weird Anthony Kiedis triv to one of the upcoming strange trips because wow, dude, it's just been.
Yeah.
I'm not even a huge Chili Peppers fan. What'd you say?
Since he was a kid, craziness.
Yeah.
I don't know a ton of it, but I know some. Yeah.
Okay, so A, Billy Corrigan. B, Johnny Knoxville.
I feel like they were in a movie together, so I could see that.
C,
That makes more sense.
Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit.
I don't think anything would surprise me with that one in terms of who he would date.
Or D, Tony Romo, famous Cowboys quarterback. Was he Cowboys? I think it was Cowboys.
That sounds right.
Again, which one of these did she not date? I got Billy Corrigan, Johnny Knoxville, Fred Durst, or Tony Romo.
Oh, I feel like
Tony Romo.
I'm torn between Freddie and...
Man, that must have been an unfortunate name to have in high school and junior high. You know what I'm saying? Romo. Kids are mean.
Yes. Or to be a kid now, because it's appropriate to make fun of kids that way again. Apparently. I'm torn between the Fred and the Korg. I feel like one of them might be a bit of a herring, but I have the hardest time picturing Billy Corgan, so I'm just gonna go with that.
Okay. Joe Mark.
Yeah, I'm having the same dilemma as Ron was, but I think I'm also going to go with Billy Corgan on that one.
Okay.
Don't let me down, Billy.
What you gonna do my rain. Keep rolling.
Did it all for the Jesse. Wasn't a very good Durs.
Wow.
No,
I meant to have a little more poop behind it, but I just puffed on my cigar. Just didn't. Okay.
Hello.
All right. Fred Durst.
Oof. Okay.
Okay.
I'm doing this from my phone, so it's a little slower than norm. Okay. Question 3. This famous person's parents were both carnies, and they would drag their kid to work with them constantly, perhaps influencing this person's future. Whose parents were both carnies? Was it A, Paul Rubens?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it B, Tim Burton?
Explain a lot.
Was it C, David Blaine?
Oh.
It's just an
Or is
optical illusion.
Or is it D, Rob Zombie?
Well, that's funny because that was the first name that popped in my head.
Really?
Yeah.
I was thinking the clown from Rob Zombie.
But
all right, what are you gonna go with, Ronster?
I just watched the fucking Pee Wee Herman documentary, and which features obviously his biography, but also goes into Burton's biography. And
Weird.
I feel like it came up, but I can't remember. I may be ascribing that because there was also a Pee Wee's Big Top Adventure movie. It's a lot that there's a weird orgy happening in my head, and it could be
yes, there is.
all made up memories fucking up there. But I'm gonna go with Pee Wee. There's something familiar about that. It's funny because I just watched that. I've watched a lot of things though. I highly recommend that. It's just 2 episodes of the documentary. It's fascinating. And poor Pee Wee, man, he got screwed in a lot of ways by just being villainized and accused of things that he clearly wasn't guilty of. And to this day, people hold him to some of those accusations. It's crazy.
Oh, John Mark.
Long live Pee Wee.
Fuck it. I'll go with Rob Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so funny how that popped into my head. Before it's like, oh, I bet Rob Zombie could have been raised by fucking carnies. It makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
It does make sense.
Who was the first one, and who was he?
Pee Wee Herman.
Pee Wee Herman.
Oh,
I can't do the left. Can you do a Pee Wee impersonation?
Oh, about as good as my Fred Durst.
You know, shit. Maybe worse. That was good. That was good.
He's got 2 voices though. He's got that voice, and then oh, it hurts. Yeah,
that sounds like fucked up Yoda.
it's more like his Flight of the Navigator voice.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Compliance. I thought that it was 2 voices. I thought it was Pee Wee doing when he got wacky, but it's Pee Wee doing all the voice of the Navigator spaceship.
Huh. Well, I'm gonna
Compliance
just go with
Navigator.
Pee-wee, I guess. I have no idea. I'm just guessing.
Lyle, you sound almost perfect, but I think you're still too bassy. Your treble sounds great now, though. If you bring that bass down just a bit, I think we're looking pretty good.
Give me just a sec. I need 30 seconds.
Yeah, I recommend watching the Pee
That
Wee.
might be my own bass, if you know
Pee-wee
what I'm saying.
Oh, no, you sound much better. You sound clean now.
I knocked it down like 20 dB.
I wish they would have focused longer on Pee Wee's Playhouse because there's so much amazing aspects to that
funny.
fucking. I did not remember that the movie came before the show. Thought it was the other way around.
Really?
Well, the kids show. You know, the
Right.
Pee Wee's Playhouse started as an adult show on HBO, and then he got the movie deal. But I definitely didn't see the movie until after I was a fan of the TV, the Saturday morning show. It's fucking great.
Okay. Sorry about that delay, guys. All right.
Old Cherry.
And on to the soup du jour of my strange trip tonight. The question about my girlfriend's home inspector and what he said on the ring cam. Now, when I heard this, my jaw fucking dropped. Now, these people are supposed to be pretty professional. They're showing prospective buyers, the home they may be purchasing.
Sure.
And they obviously want to point out anything that's wrong. But this guy was just telling personal stories and going crazy. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 things he said. I know it's a total crapshoot, but you got to pick the right one. The rest of them I made up. Did he say A? I used to buy a lot of meth from a kid that lived in this house like 20 years ago, like all the time, just meth.
Kept me up all night. Taking
No.
that meth.
He's trying to sell the house to this person?
So he said this is the inspector that the realtor has hired to come out and make sure that the house is,
Okay.
sellable.
Yeah, it's just small.
They do they write up a report, they communicate with the city. It's a kind of a big deal. Is it B? I inspected this house once before. There was actually a dude living inside the walls that we had to have arrested. He was naked.
Oh, that's fascinating because that teases where I'm going to take us next episode. Okay.
Is it C? Sorry if the bathroom's a little stinky. I actually popped in there about 15 minutes ago and took a massive crap. Lucky for you, These pipes, clang, clang, looking good.
That's worth capturing.
Or is it D? I knew a guy once that lived here, and he straight up got punched in the face by a ghost. No joke.
Tell me that you have the audio for the answer.
I should have brought it because I am verbatim saying the one that he did. But I didn't sing it.
Well, I got a little confusion though. So give me the question, the setup one more time.
Okay, so my lady's still in her house, and she's almost to the end of it. And one of the last things they do before they sign paperwork is they have an inspection done to make sure like the roof isn't fucking falling into disarray, or the pipes are good, this or that, right? So then she pulled up her Ring cam. My girlfriend did while the inspection was happening, and it was the inspector and the person that's buying the house and their realtor walking around.
That's what
they said this to them.
Gotcha.
The people that she's trying to sell the fucking house to. Again, you want me to read them one more time?
I think you better. It's worth it.
Is it A? I used to buy a lot of meth from a kid that lived in this house like 20 years ago, like all the time. Just meth.
That's reassuring.
B, I inspected this house once before. There's actually a dude living inside the walls that we had to have arrested. And he was naked.
Naked.
You guys like Frogger, don't you?
Is it C? Sorry if this bathroom is a little stinky. I actually popped in here about 15 minutes ago and took a massive poop. Looking for you. These pipes are looking solid. Clang, clang.
Uh-huh.
Is it D? I knew a guy once that lived here. He straight up... C. No, I'm on to D. I knew a guy once that lived here, and he straight up got punched in the face by a ghost. No joke.
Well, it's tough, but I'm rooting the most for C. And I think that's like the one that ultimately he's doing his job in the way that he should to some degree.
Quality assurance, yeah.
By letting you know that these pipes, ding, 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 solid. Yeah, I'm going to go with C.
Okay.
But letting them know that, for years and years, this place was well known to drug lords because of certain stir.
John Mark.
I'm going to go with the meth boy.
All right.
Oh, man.
Meth boy.
Lyle, what are you going to do, baby?
I don't know if it is the right question, but it's right to me because I want it to be right.
Okay.
The punched in the face by a ghost.
Well, we're all over the map tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Okay, let's go over the answers and see how you guys did. This popular movie actually started its life as a script for an X-Files episode, but was later transitioned to its own feature film years down the line. We were talking about Final Destination. That one out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ronster with a point right off the bat here.
So my logic was probably right. That popped up because Final Destination is everywhere,
probably.
As we just talked about.
Question 2. Jessica Simpson dated a slew of celebrities before she found her husband. I gave you a short list here. She did, in fact, date Billy Corrigan, Ron, and John Mark. She did date Johnny Knoxville. She did date Tony Romo, but she did not date Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit. I guess they were pictured together once, and people speculated, but never officially were even that close.
The Bizkit was just too limp.
Lyle,
I got that
with the point. Boom.
Eminem song. Eminem.
Boom.
Eminem did a song about that.
Oh, wow.
About Billy Corgan fucking Jessica Simpson?
First me or Fred Durst.
Mom, spaghetti. Okay, this famous person's parents were both carnies, and they would drag their kid to work a lot, perhaps influencing the person they would become. We were talking about Rob Zombie.
Oh,
John Mark.
Damn.
Tied fucking game here.
Yeah, see,
which
that
leads us to...
There was all a bunch of bullshit in my head that I connected to things that weren't there. And yet the very first name that popped into my head before you even fucking said it, before you said any name, was Rob Zombie. Interesting.
Pretty nuts, man. Rob Zombie fucking looks like a carny, let's be real. Okay, my girlfriend's selling her place, and it's been a wild ride, but nothing quite floored us like tuning into an official city or a hired inspector telling her prospective buyer that he straight up knew a guy that got punched in the face by a ghost at this house once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. That means Lyle is our goddamn winner tonight.
It makes me so happy. And not even winning, it makes me happy that somebody got punched in the face by a ghost.
Ghost punched.
Right? Take that, sucker.
Where are you going to go?
Go. Just
punches. Oh, man. Well, I love your made up answers for that one. All solid stuff.
Fun. Yeah.
Huh. Well, yeah, you'll have to get the audio for that because I'd like to hear his delivery. What was the response?
They were like, what? Really? And he was like, yeah.
Anyway, over here we have solid hickory.
Yeah, totally. Like he was like saying, by the way, roof looks great.
Did she have ever any experiences with ghosts in the house where she lived there?
Nah.
Huh.
So
No,
funny.
just fucking with him. Well, it's fascinating that you slipped a frogging scenario in there. You know, someone living in the walls or living secretly in the house, because on the next week's program, I'm going to be talking about. Christopher got me going down this rabbit hole when you may remember when we were talking about the Candyman murder, where someone actually came through the mirror, not in a supernatural way, but actually undid someone's mirror, climbed to the bathroom wall, and murdered a woman after she was telling everybody that someone was trying to get to her through their fucking mirror. That I was not familiar with the term frogging. Christopher brought that up. I since discovered a fascinating documentary series. I watched it on Tubi. I think it's a Lifetime series, but it's streaming for free on Tubi. Highly recommend it. There was like 10 episodes. Holy shit, some of this is fucking creepy.
Really?
So this is going to bother some people, I promise, because this is not nearly as rare as we would like it to be. And as someone with a huge house, and as I mentioned, when we were talking about
your
this,
neighbor, your tenant, she
my
thought someone was down there for sure.
Someone was living down there in the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 or 3 hatches in this house that I've opened and seen that they're like a little step ladder to go down into a compartment, but I never went down it. I lived here for 30 years. I just assume no one's living there, but I think it's time for me to do a little frogging research, if you know what I mean. Get out there and see, check them cubbies. Anywho, well, a bit on the shorter side, but we have another episode to get to, and we want to try to keep these a little shorter so we can get more episodes out and about. So tune in next week. We're going to be talking about frogging and potentially 9/11. Going to cover some of that. And another thing I'm watching right now is the potentiality of everything going to martial law down in Los Angeles. So it's a lot lot going on tonight. All right. Shall we get on out of here?
Yep.
Tune in next week, y'all. Till then, check those cupboards. Don't get punched by a ghost. And if you think you hear somebody breathing in the wall, you might not be crazy. Ghost punchers. Ghost punchers.
Who you gonna slap?
You bitch.
got punched by a ghost at this house.
No way.
Swear to God.